Hello everyone, I'm Ellen McCloskey and this is my Module 12 case study. Summarizing the case, the Lightville Community School District serves two different rural communities and most of its residents live on farms. So there's two different schools. There's an elementary building and a junior-senior high school. The elementary school opened 22 years ago and the secondary school came 11 years later. The school district's population is rising about 2% every year, and when the high school opened up, most of the residents believed that there would be no reason to build any more schools, and there for at least 40 years. But due to this increase in population, a new middle school is being looked at. The superintendent met with the architect and the planner to identify three possible solutions, the first one being that there could be in addition to the current junior-senior high school, there could be additions to both existing schools, or there could be a new middle school built that would house just 6th through 8th grade. And the third option was selected because it was a favorable outcome by all three parties, and it was also the best long-term solution. The first option, there was some opposition that came out of this decision, and the first being landowners who felt like that no new debt should be incurred until the previous debts were paid off. The second one came from residents who wanted either the first or the second option because they felt like they were less expensive and would not increase taxes quite as much. And the third was with what the superintendent recommended and campaigned for, and then the school board voted to build a new middle school, and by doing so they promoted the current and future success and well-being of each student and adult. Who was involved? The different people involved in this situation were Superintendent Joe Rawlings, the Board of Education, the community, the selection committee, architects, planners, Principal Susan Potter, the advisory committee, and teacher Helen Burke, and teacher Dan Kelby. So after this decision is made to build a new middle school, then the middle school had to put out interest for a new principal for that building. And so then Principal Susan Potter was hired, and Superintendent Joe Rawlings gave her the opportunity to steer the vision and planning committee. So this vision and planning committee was an advisory committee, and Principal Potter selected the different people for it. And so there were 4 teachers and 4 parents were serving on this advisory committee, and she deemed these people to have knowledge, skills, and commitments necessary to collaboratively lead, design, and implement the school mission and vision while keeping core values in mind. So they all start to meet, and at this first meeting, Principal Potter pointed out that she would like to just be a part of the committee and does not want to be a chair of the committee. And then she went through and identified some guidelines. She said that all of the members in this group would have a vote in making the decision. There would be a consensus for making decisions, and that the committee's first task would be to create the vision statement for the school. And she felt like this vision statement should reflect the values and beliefs of the community members and hopefully the community as well. And that any sort of stakeholder would be able to have their input be heard for this vision statement. And so these different committee members went ahead and agreed with these guidelines that Susan Potter put in place. But they did not like the idea of her not being the chair committee because they felt like she was the person who had the most knowledge and was most qualified to be the chair committee. But she finally discussed that she didn't feel like that was collaborative and she would just like to be a committee member. So they went through and selected Helen Burke to be the committee chair. Principal Potter pointed out that she wanted to share these different leadership roles, and she also wanted to make sure that the development of the vision statement was representative of the entire committee. And Helen wasn't convinced that this whole process that Susan was discussing was going to work best. And so they voted on it, and 7 members voted to support the motion and 1 abstained, and Susan voted against the motion. And so the committee proved they were not prepared to work as a team in order to create well-being and success for all students and staff. They did not incorporate any core values because they were solely concerned with the principal being the only leader. They should have started with the core values, so with data use, technology, equity, diversity, digital citizenship, and community. And after Helen left, Susan sat in her room alone and thought about how she could lead this next meeting. There was no plan implemented or evaluated, but the committee could have determined to work as a team and could have created a needs-based survey at this meeting. Legal or ethical issues. So even though there may be hard feelings and frustrations, there are no legal or ethical issues in this case. No one has been harmed by the actions or decisions of another. The situation does not contravene an existing law, and there was not a breach of contract or discriminatory or harassing actions. Synthesize. The Lightville Community School District has hired a new principal, Susan Potter, to lead their brand new middle school and to steer their vision and planning committee, but she's met with strong opposition from the committee members who believe she should be the sole developer of the vision statement. Evaluating the missing facts. The different people that are missing from this whole case study is the superintendent. So we're not really sure where he's at in this entire committee, or why he's not involved in it, or why he's not being consulted. It's also unclear as to why there's no community members that are included on this advisory committee. So if they want this vision statement to represent the entire committee and they don't have any committee members, that doesn't make much sense. And then there's no sort of other stakeholders that are included. So we don't have, we just have different teachers and different parents. We don't have other stakeholders. So we don't have any counselors. The superintendent is not on there again. So no other representatives except parents and teachers. And so for the place, we don't know where this all takes place. We don't know their meeting locations. So we also don't know if there's generally good community involvement. That's fairly unclear, and that doesn't really answer why there's not any community members on this committee. The different programs, the missing facts from the programs is, has there been committees like this before? So is this something that is not common in this community or in this school, and so people are just unsure and need kind of this process back down a little bit and explained more? Are there established guidelines ahead of time, or were there just these 4 items that Susan Potter pointed out at the beginning? And have the core values been established? So has she outlined the core values and presented them at the beginning of the meeting? So the missing information points out that decisions are often unclear, or some decisions require information gathering prior to action planning. So that's why it's important that we include that information. Reviewing and prioritizing. The Lightville Community School District built a new middle school and hired a new principal, Susan Potter. Susan is charged with the task of steering the vision and planning committee. The first task the committee has to develop is to develop the vision statement. The committee wants Susan to do this alone. Susan's not comfortable with this idea. The committee votes against Susan's idea of it being collaborative. Susan's left to decide what her next move at the next meeting is. If an action plan, so if I were in Susan Potter's position, I would first of all select a committee with community and or other stakeholder members. So beyond parents and staff, I would include community members as well. Then we would establish the core values. So we would use data use, technology, equity, diversity, digital citizenship, and community. Then we would establish meeting and team norms as a group. And so I would create a document that's similar to module number 9 that's linked here. We would create a needs-based survey to identify what the community is wanting, what the school is wanting, what the parents are wanting, potentially even what the students are wanting. And so it'd be developed by the committee, written down, so these team norms would be written down and made visible at every team meeting. And then this needs-based survey would be sent out and would guide the rest of our meetings. Then we would take a look at the whole picture of tasks that we're wanting to complete. And finally, we would work on developing the vision statement as a committee, and so it would take input from all members. As a building leader, I have the responsibility and capacity to lead this committee through an improvement process. As long as norms are established and everyone reminds each other of the norms, then it should allow the meetings to run smoothly. And if the team works together, then the current and future success and well-being of each student and adult will be promoted. Evaluating the plan. So the different pros of this plan are that there'll be teamwork instilled and there'll be input from everyone. There'll be different norms established and they'll be visible and presented at each meeting, and the committee members will be reminded when they're not following the norms. The core values will be outlined and made known and defined, and those will also be presented at each meeting, because that really is what should be guiding the development of this vision statement. There should be an outline of tasks provided to the committee meeting, and another pro is that we're focusing on one single task. The cons is that there's no strategies for opposition. There's no plan for people who do not want to participate. So if this goes south and the committee members are still adamant about me being the sole person developing the vision statement, there's no plan in place to kind of steer that off. And this doesn't consult all stakeholders, so we don't take the vision statement back to another committee to review, and it does not include students. Developing the plan. The steps are written out to specifically achieve each piece of the plan. The plan will be implemented to benefit all involved as it's team focused. The committee could potentially include students so that all students and adults are consulted. This plan promotes success because it's giving everyone solid steps and statements to adhere to, and the plan is built around the core values. Standard statements. This assignment correlates to PLO 1, CLO 1.1, and 1.2 by requiring me to read a case study and identifying various pieces of the study in a presentation. I was able to take my knowledge from all my coursework and combine them into an actionable plan for steering a vision planning committee. This plan includes the use of core values and creates a committee that is made up of school staff, community members, etc. This plan creates success for all and seeks out improvement and progress. This assignment is relevant to my current learning because it allowed me to take all the information I learned throughout this course and apply it to a scenario that very well could come up in the future. Additionally, it will impact what I currently do because it provided me the opportunity to look through and truly think about the decision and steps I want to take, rather than rushing through. It gave me a reflection process to think through. This assignment will impact my future as a building principal because the situation or situations very similar to it will most definitely come up. This provided me with the opportunity to improve my skills as a future leader of committees in a fail-safe environment. Additionally, it provided me with the ability to take a look at the pros and cons of the plan I developed. It would be beneficial for me to be able to take this practice and apply it to various scenarios in future buildings. And these are my references. Thanks for watching.